breaking down the myths of therapy so that you finally feel comfortable enough to go. So this podcast I feel is very important for anyone that's thinking about going to therapy. So if you've never been and you feel like there's some hesitations that you have, if you feel that you don't know what actually happens in therapy, basically if you're just a complete newbie and you want to know, is this right for you? This is the podcast for you to listen to. I will even say that this podcast should be something that you share with some of your loved ones who are thinking about going to therapy or that you know needs to go to therapy, but they still haven't quite taken that jump. What I want to do is take away any objections, but also myths that people have about therapy so that they can finally get the help that they need. And when they get the help that they need, obviously, as you know, their life will completely open up and it will transform, thus giving them exactly what they've been wanting and asking for throughout their whole life. That is the whole purpose of this podcast. Now, before I go any deeper, I want you guys to subscribe to this channel so that you can get more information like this, so you can continue to share these gems with people, and even for yourself too, that are looking for therapy, that are looking for mental health advice, guidance, things of that nature. So, as you know, I've been a therapist for about 5 years now, and I absolutely love it. Therapy is one of the best places that I feel that I've been able to hone my craft, hone my values, my gifts, if you will. I love to tell my clients when I first meet with them that growing up, I just wanted to help people. That was my main thing. You know, it was actually funny about that is there's a show called Hey Arnold, and this show is a cartoon that I absolutely love, and I loved it because Arnold was such a laid-back guy. He was always helping people. It just seemed to be a wealth of knowledge, and I kind of related to him a lot growing up. And when I tell people that my gift is helping people, I do tell them that, man, I could have been anything. I could have been a doctor, a lawyer, could have been a teacher, right? Like whatever it is in terms of helping people, I could have done it. But therapy just seems to be my calling. And that's what I do nowadays. So I provide therapy to a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals that are looking to take things up to the next level in terms of their performance. So if someone's struggling with, let's say, making sales or starting their business, or they're struggling with some workplace issues, right? Whether it's being assertive or trying to get a promotion or just trying to increase their performance, whatever the case it may be, these are the people that I love helping with. And mostly these people, they tend to struggle with that confidence piece, which I love talking about. And that's just one of the things that I love doing as a therapist. I tend to meet a lot more other clients, but that is essentially my niche. Now, with this being said, I have seen a lot of people come through therapy and get exactly what they needed. And I've also seen a lot of people be hesitant and not take that plunge. I've seen people start therapy and not finish. I've seen people go all the way and get everything that they needed from this experience, right? So I've seen both sides of the coin. And what I want to do in this podcast episode is to push the people that are on the edge. They're the people that are like, you know, this therapy stuff doesn't sound bad. And actually, they're looking to actually get started, but there's still something holding them back. They're still not quite ready to take that jump, even though they know that it's right for them. This podcast is for you. And again, if you have a loved one, I definitely would recommend sharing this episode with them and telling them, hey, check this out because I really think it'll help you in finding the right therapist or even simply going to therapy. So with that being said, let's start breaking down myth number 1. So the first biggest myth about therapy, and this is a classic one, but the biggest myth about therapy is that people that go to therapy are people that have severe mental health illnesses. So we were talking about things like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, right? Things like that, right? We tend to think that these are the people that go to therapy. But in my experience, and actually the clientele that I work with, none of my clients have bipolar and none of them are schizophrenic. And that is to say that I do market myself in a way that it attracts the people that are dealing with more so performance-based stuff. So it can be performance-based anxiety. They can be dealing with adjustment disorders. So an adjustment disorder is when someone has something new that happens in their life. So it can be moving to a new state, starting a new job, losing someone, whether it be through divorce, breakup, or death, things like that. These are typically the people that come see me. Therapy is not something that you have to wait until things get really, really bad for you to start going to therapy. Because what does put you into that population of people with severe illnesses is the people that just wait. They procrastinate. They tell themselves that they'll go to therapy next year, next month, Or what tends to happen is people will think about going to therapy because something bad has just transpired in their life. And then what they'll do is they'll wait, they'll procrastinate, and things in their life will seem to get better. But in the background, they've never dealt with the issues at hand, the core issues that they were suffering with. This is how you go from having a mental problem, illness, or whatever the case may be, that's minute, and then it blows up. So again, my clientele, 100% of them do not deal with severe mental health illnesses. One would actually say that these people are actually here to see me because they're looking to get some type of coaching. They're looking for some level of accountability from me to help them to reach their goals. That is what people are looking for. So again, you do not have to be seeing things, hearing things, or feeling things crawling on your arm, right? Or be thinking about harming yourself to go to therapy. I'll even say this because I recently saw this on a TikTok. But Tom Brady, he recently spoke to someone from BetterHelp, which is a platform, and I'll probably talk about that later. But he was speaking to someone through BetterHelp, and it was like an advertisement, right? So he was doing a commercial. And during that commercial, they actually asked Tom Brady, have you ever seen a therapist? And Tom Brady says he's been working with therapists for over 25 years. Now, if you would have told me that the greatest football player ever saw a therapist to maintain his level of greatness, I would say, yo, sign me up for that. And I think you should be looking at it from that lens as well. So again, you do not need to be suffering from something severe. I would tell you this: if there is something in your life that you know that you want, but yet you feel that there's something getting in your way, and that something really could be you. So if you're getting in your own way of getting the thing that you're trying to get out of life, you should reach out to a therapist. You should look to reach out to one. If you're someone that has something that has happened in their past, right? So it can be your parents got divorced when you were 5. It could be someone passed when you were young, right? Or even a few years ago, right? Like if there's something in your past that is getting in the way of your present and your future, that is also another sign that therapy is the right place for you. Now, I'm a big fan of personal development. As you can see to the books on my back left, I have a bookshelf full of books about entrepreneurship and books about personal development. Reading a personal development book and going to see a therapist is two completely different things. And the reason why is because that book can't hold you accountable. And that book was made for millions of people, not just you. When you go to see a therapist, they're able to tailor their methods to fit specifically what you're going through. And that is by far one of the biggest advantages to actually going to therapy. So again, I want you guys to know you do not have to go through something severe in order to see a therapist. Myth number 2, and this is a big myth. I'm going to catch you guys off guard. I know for a fact. If I catch you off guard, I want you to say in the comments, Coach, you got me. But myth number 2 is therapy will get rid of all my problems. That is one of the biggest myths ever. And what I actually had a client maybe about a year and a half ago, and he was a high performing client. And he was actually coming to therapy because, and this was his words, but he was coming to therapy because he wanted to become more perfect. And that right there in itself was problematic because there's no therapist and no thing for that matter that can make you perfect. Us as humans, we live in a flawed world. And us as humans, we are also flawed. So when we come to therapy, we have to have a real good idea of what it is that we're getting from this therapist and what our expectations are once we leave therapy. And what I helped this guy to see was that therapy does not get rid of all your problems. It does get rid of some of them. But the main goal of therapy is being able to help you to actually cope with those problems long enough to where you can find a solution to them. Now, a problem that may feel that is unsolvable, maybe something like grief. Something like that is a pain that unfortunately you may live with for forever, if you will. But who's to say that, one, that pain will always be as intense as it was back on day one? And then two, who's to say that you will not have the strength to actually carry this pain with you? And that's the biggest thing that I teach people that are going through grief, is seeing that their life does not have to stop because they're grieving. And as a matter of fact, you can actually honor that person that you're grieving about by deciding to continue to live your life in a way that would honor them. So I've had a few clients who have lost parents, and I've asked them, what were some of the values that your parents have taught you growing up? And they'll list things like to be giving, to be caring, to be confident, to go after your goals and things of this nature. And I asked them, how can you continue to honor their memories through those values? What is it that you can do today to show that you are giving, that you are caring, that you are confident in chasing your goals? What they'll do is they'll come up with a list of answers, and that would then be the assignments that I would give them for that week. So each day, can you show me how you were able to show caring? Because it sounds like to me, your mom has spent all their life trying to tell you, trying to show you, trying to model to you that this value is very important. And if you had to ask me, so this is a technique called memento mori. It's this idea that one day you will die and you need to live like that, but in a positive way. But if you were to ask me, what is the memory, what is the value that I would like to instill into my son, right? Years down the line when I'm gone, it would be something along the lines of, even when you're not perfect, you're still good enough. You're still capable. You're still someone that has it within you to accomplish that very same goal you started out with wanting, desiring, going after, no matter what your journey has looked like. That is the message I would love to send to him. So again, the biggest myth here is that therapy would get rid of all your problems. Therapy will definitely get rid of some of your problems. It will, believe me when I say that. And actually the problems that you come into therapy for, yeah, all of those may be solved, but will therapy make your life perfect? No. Therapy will actually show you how to cope with some of the life stressors. And that, one could say, is the way that therapy will help you to, and I'm using air quotes now, to get rid of all your problems. Because in that sense, the true problem is thinking that the problem is the problem. And that's not the case. The problem is how you carry or how you see or even how you respond to the problem. That will determine if this problem is really a problem. All right, myth number 3. You guys are going to hate me for this, but I'm sorry. I got to break this myth. But myth number 3 when it comes to therapy is that it costs too much. Now, I love to tell you guys this because I actually talked to a client during a consultation because he was saying to me, well, coach, I want to start therapy with you. You sound like a great guy, but I need to see how much it's going to cost. And I said, okay. Well, let me ask you something, okay? This is what I was asking him. I said, if I had a Honda Accord to sell to you, and I said, hey, I'll sell you this Honda Accord for $50,000, would you do it? And he said, no. And the reason why is because like a Honda Accord may be what? $20,000, maybe $25,000 at the max, right? It's something like that, right? So it's nowhere near worth $50,000. So I was like, okay. He said no. So I was like, all right. Then I said, if I had a Bugatti, right? A Bugatti. So a Bugatti, if you guys don't know, very, very valuable car. Probably one of the most valuable cars in the world. If I had a Bugatti to sell to you for $50,000, would you say yes to it? He was like, yeah, of course. And what I got him to realize was that the money didn't change. The only thing that changed was what you thought you were getting in exchange for your money. And that right there breaks all myths about the value of something that you're getting, about the cost that you're paying. Warren Buffett said it best. He said, cost is what you pay, but value is what you get. So when it comes to therapy and it costing too much, I would ask you, well, how valuable is your mental health? Because if you don't value it at all, I can make the case that you are one of the first people that should actually go to therapy because your mental health is a sign of the level of self-love and self-worth that you have for yourself. So if you're someone that's willing to spend, let's say, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or what have you, to maintain your mental health, then yeah, you're someone that has a very high level of self-worth of themselves. But if you're someone that's not, right? If you're someone that is saying, you know what, therapy is too much, the insurance is too much, if you're not willing to put a dime towards your mental health, I can make the argument that you're probably someone that suffers from a lot of low confidence. And that's not a shot at anyone, okay? I just want you guys to see that we put our money into places that we value. So if I put money towards my house, I value that. If I put money towards my car, I value that. If I put money towards my body, whether it's through dieting or exercising, it's because I value that. And if you put money towards your mind, your mental health, that also means that you value it. And the last time I checked, guys, your mind is one thing that you cannot replace. So therapy does not cost too much. It's what you perceive as valuable. Now, with that being said, I do want to give some resources here. So if you're someone that wants to do therapy, but you're concerned about the price, and even though we just talked about that, I'll give you some websites. So one website is called BetterHelp. Okay, so you can get mental health services for, I don't want to use the word cheap, but at an affordable rate for you. Okay, so BetterHelp. So that's one place. Another place is Open Path. Okay, Open Path. Their therapists work with people on a sliding scale to where you can see a therapist for probably $45, if you will, per session. Okay, so that's another place that you can look to. Another place, if you do have insurance, is Psychology Today. And what's great about this website and the next ones I'm going to list is that you can put in filters to find the therapist that you would like to see. So if you want to see a black male therapist that also believes in Christianity, you can put those things into the filter and you will get those therapists that subscribe to that. You can also put in what insurances you want this therapist to have. So if you have Cigna or Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can put those filters in and it will spit out the therapist that accepts those insurances. So Psychology Today is a place, Headway is a place, and Hello Alma. Okay, hello is if you're waving to someone, Alma, ALMA. So Apple, Larry, Mary, Apple. So that is an easy way to find a therapist. Those resources that I gave you, they're accessible all throughout the country of the United States. And then BetterHelp, I do know for a fact that they go into other countries as well. So those are just some really quick, easy places that you can find that is, again, affordable. All right, myth number 4. So myth number 4 is that therapy takes too long. Now, I will say therapy is a process, and that process depends on so many different factors. One being the therapist, another being the client. So how much work the client is actually willing to put in, and then the match that the therapist has with the client. But then even the things that the client is coming into therapy for, right? So if there's a client coming in because they're dealing with a very, very recent trauma, right? So let's say a month ago they lost someone. Well, it may take that person to, let's say, progress a little bit longer than someone that is, let's say, dealing with, let's just say something lesser. I wish I had another example, but let's just say something lesser for the sake of time, right? So again, like what that person's coming into therapy for can determine how long they're in therapy for. With this being said, there was a study done by the National Mental Health Institution, okay? And what they stated was that approximately 50% of patients show significant improvements after 8 sessions, okay? So again, there's a study that said that 50% of patients or clients show significant, not just some improvements, but significant improvements after 8 sessions, okay? So in other words, within 2 months, most people are able to see very high and possibly even leave therapy because they got exactly what they needed. Therapy does not have to take long. Now, what I will also add to this is that therapy can take as long as that person will determine based on what they want from therapy. Like how much of that person's life do they want the therapist to do a deep dive in? Because for some clients, we just simply talk about their relationships. Other clients, I just talk about their career stuff. And then there's some clients where we talk about career, their business, their relationships, their childhood, their personal life, their friendships. We talk about a lot of stuff. And as a result, I just can't touch all those things within 2 months. So again, it does depend on what that client wants. But on average, 50% of people typically see significant improvements within 8 sessions. Last but not least, and guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can, again, continue to get information like this. But myth number 5 is therapists will tell you what to do. And it's like, yo, isn't that why I'm going to therapy? And not quite. The main job of a therapist is to help the clients to find the answers that are right for them. Plain and simple. If you ever sat on a consultation with me, you know that I typically give this analogy. I always tell my new clients that I want them to actually imagine that they're in the driver's seat. Okay, so whether we're in a car, plane, or a boat, I want them to imagine that they're in the driver's seat. And I want them to imagine that I'm in the passenger seat, right? And their job is to tell me where they want to go. So if we're driving a car, we're in Miami, and someone says, hey, coach, I want to go to LA. I'm like, okay. So I'm pulling up my map, and based on where we are, and based on where you want to go, these are the exits and turns that you need to take. All right. So in other words, I'm the navigator, right? I have the GPS system, I have the map, and I'm going based off what that client wants for their life. Now, the other job of the driver or the client, which is you, is to follow these instructions. Okay. That is your job. Now, it may sound like, aren't you still giving me advice, telling me what to do? No, I'm not. Based on where you're telling me that you want to go, I'm giving you the guidance to get to that destination. Now, if you told me, hey, coach, you know what, bump LA. I want to go to Texas or I want to go to New York. Hey, I'll just simply readjust my map and tell you where you need to go. Now, the good thing about having a therapist is that we have so much experience and knowledge about people that have actually been in your shoes. So in other words, I've gone through this path. I've ridden this terrain. I've driven down this road before. I've done it with several clients before you. So I know exactly what twists and turns we need to take. But the thing that sometimes that gets in the way is that clients, right? People, whoever it may be, they have only met me or the therapist for maybe a month, maybe 2 months, or maybe it's your very first session. So as a result, they're just getting to know me. And what they tend to fall victim to is that instead of listening to someone that's new, they'll listen to someone that they've been listening to their entire life. And that person is their mind. So it's like, man, I have so much rapport with my mind. We've been together since day one, literally since day one. But yet here's this new guy or this new lady that's coming into my life and telling me to do all these scary and new things. It's like, do I really want to trust them? That's where people get stuck. That's where people get trapped. It's like, I like you. I really do. But I just can't trust you. And that's a process in itself where the therapist has to be able to build rapport with you. But again, getting back to the main point, therapists do not give advice. What they give is they give guidance. They allow you to explore these options. They'll point you in the right direction, and it's up to you to find out which path is the right path for you. That is it. Now, your friends, they may fall into the category of giving you advice, but as a therapist, we don't have a dog in the fight. I've literally sat with clients who have been going through relationship issues, and I've told them that, hey, my goal is not for you to get back together with your wife or your husband or anything like that. My goal is to help you to find the clarity you need to know where to take the relationship next. That is it. So sometimes people come to me and the goal is, how do I exit this relationship in a healthy way? That's it. And it's like, but coach, we don't see that in the movies. And I'm like, yeah, therapy is not a movie. It's not. So that is the biggest myth. I want you to go into therapy knowing what it is that you want. Know what your LAs, your New Yorks are. Know what your destinations are. And tell that to the therapist and allow them to give you the directions. Now it's your job to, again, follow them. So trust them. So with that being said, I'm going to go back over these 5 myths to therapy so that you can become more comfortable with the idea of going. So the first big myth that I mentioned was that therapy is for people with severe mental health illnesses. That is not the case, guys. 100% of my clients do not suffer from severe mental health illnesses. Okay, so you do not need to have your life on the brink of doom before you go. Myth number 2 is therapy will get rid of all my problems. Again, the idea of how you respond to your problems is very important because it determines if there is really a problem or not. And again, therapy will solve some of those problems. I do want you guys to know that. But the idea that therapy will make you perfect and get rid of all your problems is not the case. Therapy will help you to learn how to cope with these problems long enough so that you can find solutions to them. And for some of these problems, they may not necessarily go away. The pain of life, we all feel, we all experience. And a therapist's job is not to make the pain go away, but to increase the amount of strength you have to deal with this pain. Myth number 3 is that it costs too much. Again, $50,000 when it comes to a Bugatti seems like a no-brainer. But if you see your mental health as like a Honda Accord, and that is not a shot at anyone driving a Honda Accord, but if you see your mental health is not valuable, then you're not going to spend that money. And that is actually a reason why you should go to therapy, because it is a sign of low confidence. Myth number 4, therapy takes forever to show results. Again, there's been studies that show that after 8 sessions, most people see a significant improvements in their mental health. And then myth number 5 is that a therapist will tell you what to do. Again, a therapist's job is to get you from point A to point B. Your point B is what you define it as. We do not define that for you. So you just tell them where you want to go, and we'll show you the directions, but it's your job to follow them. So with that being said, this is Coach Wells. I'm a licensed therapist, and thank you for checking out this episode.